Welcome to the Ignorance is Strength podcast. I'm your host, Fabian motherfucking Ojeda, and I don't know shit, but that's okay. All right, let's get the shit started. Thank you everybody for listening to the Ignorance is Strength podcast. Hope you all enjoyed. Well, the last episode we did, I think, was shit show number 10, 11, season number 11, and then we took a break for that for 3 weeks or so. So nice to have everybody back listening. I know that hiatus was unexpected, but life happens. But I'm glad to be back today with a brand new guest. Got a lot of things to talk about. I want to welcome to the podcast for the very first time, Mr. Bryan Parkerson. How you doing?
Doing good, man. Thanks for having me on.
Definitely. Where are you joining us from today, Bryan?
I'm in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. So Tennessee seems to be like kind of like New Hollywood at this point too. I know San Antonio's booming, and I heard a lot out of Tennessee as well.
Yeah, man. You know what? I didn't realize my video wasn't started. There we go. Now you can see me. Yeah, it's dude, it's pouring down right now. It was fairly clear most of the day. It's coming down, but yeah, Knoxville really does have a really booming film economy and film community, and it's continuing to grow. I had heard from someone recently that Tennessee, Ohio, and I think Texas may have been one of the other ones. They're starting to become the new Atlantis. Just because the tax breaks that you get for filmmaking and stuff like that. Yeah,
you mentioned Texas. I think I've interviewed probably like 5 people out of San Antonio that are just, like getting work out there. And it's crazy, but I mean, it's definitely shifting.
Yeah, it's great, man. Independent film is, it's wonderful, and it's such a great community. It's such a great group of people. It's such a great, it's a privilege to be a part of it. There's just something special about it. I've not worked on a big Hollywood production yet, so I can't speak to that, but I can tell you working on independent film is, man, one of the favorite things that I've had the privilege to do. It's just a lot of fun. It's magical. It really is magical.
Yeah. And with that too, I mean, independent films are getting a little more, elaborate, I would say, than just your, you got a cameraman and 2 people acting, right? I mean, it's bigger than that now, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like it's, and the movie I'm working on right now, Blood Repentance, it started out as a 2-minute challenge from a friend. And it literally would have been just myself and one of my best friends with my iPhone just making a movie. And it's literally evolved and blossomed into a full-fledged production. I mean, I have actors, I have crew, I have multiple filming locations. I mean, it's very much a legitimate film. It's very much a legitimate production. And I think independent film is really taking that on. Like a good friend of mine, Steve Herman, he founded and runs Acrostar Films, and he's got a really solid producer and a really solid group of actors, and I mean, his team is great. And I mean, they're doing stuff that, I mean, you're literally, even though it may be an independent film, you're very much on a professional film set.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think, you mentioned, would have just been you on your iPhone kind of thing. That's kind of taken off too, right? I mean, other than, people, I've heard that people are getting their movies on like Amazon, and it's just shot on an iPhone. It's like, we live in such a weird time where, you're able to get your full length, indie film on a major platform, from out of just using a phone device.
Yeah. And you know what, let's talk about that for a second. Cause one of the things I like to do is share some of the things I've learned. And this will be really good to any of the filmmakers in your audience. So I originally was going to film Blood Repentance on an iPhone, and filmmaking has become so accessible today. Sound is going to be your biggest challenge, honestly, getting a good mic, but the video quality is not your issue. If you have a modern smartphone, so there's a company out there called Beast Grip, and I got a couple things I'm going to show you. Beast Grip manufactures their main product is the Beast Grip. It's a mount that you can put your smartphone in, and you can put it on a tripod. You can attach lenses, you can attach mics, lights, monitors. It's, well, assuming you can hook a monitor up to your phone, that may be stretched, but I'm sure there might be an adapter out there to let you do that. There's actually a show on Amazon, and I cannot remember the name of it right now, but it was shot using Samsung Galaxy devices, and it's done really well. And it looks like it was done. It was shot with a film camera. There was a movie in 2015 that hit the festival circuit, and people were clamoring over it because it was shot on iPhone 5s. So here's the secret. Okay. The industry standard for film, for something to look cinematic, to give it, the motion blur, like when your eyes look at a film, there are a couple things going on. It is shot in 24 frames per second, and your shutter speed is supposed to be 48. Some cameras go in increments of 10. So like my Canon Rebel that I use to film, I have to put it in the shutter speed at 1/50, but it's still, you get the same effect. You get that's what creates that cinematic look. So there's an app you can get for the iPhone and Android called Filmic Pro. And Filmic Pro gives you granular control over your camera, and you can literally shoot in 24 frames at a 48 shutter speed. You can shoot in 4K if your phone will do 4K. And so when you have so I have here what's called the Beast Cage. That's one of the other products they do. This is the Beast Cage made for the iPhone that I have. It's literally a case that you put your phone in. It's got a built-in cold shoe mount right here, so you can attach devices. It's got tons of threaded holes in it, so you can attach, more cold shoe mounts. You can attach, of course, put it on a tripod and just attach it. But right here are these interchangeable lens mounts. Okay, so this one in particular is designed for what they call the M series lenses. So I actually have right here a 1.33 anamorphic lens designed for the iPhone. So you can actually film in anamorphic. And it's cool, man. You get the lens flares and everything. So you can absolutely make something with your phone that looks like it was done with a $20,000 Panaflex camera, $8,000 red. The quality, that's not really what's most important. Your skill as a cinematographer, your sound is really actually the most important thing. A lot of people would argue, and I agree with that. And you can actually, you can buy, I have a receiver for it that you can use with the iPhone that actually lets you run your sound through Filmic Pro, and you can get really good sound. That's going to be your biggest challenge starting out before you get equipment. It's not going to be the quality of your video. It's going to be the quality of your sound. But if you get creative, if you do a lot of like medium close up and close up shots, and if you're in an indoor environment, you can actually capture decent enough sound on your iPhone to get away with it. You just have to get really creative.
Otherwise, what is like boom mics and stuff?
Yeah. So I love this, man. We do a little bit of a show and tell type thing. Let me see if I can find this. Oh yeah, here it is. So this is a receiver I have. It's powered by I believe it's a 9-volt battery. And you can use, so for the iPhone, you can use the little lightning adapter. You plug it in, Filmic Pro picks it up as a microphone. And so this is an XLR, a female XLR. So run your XLR cable into it, run that to your mic. You adjust your gain using this. And you can actually run phantom power through this as well, which is cool. And plug it up to your phone, and boom, dude, you can get professional sound, and you just edit it in post. So if you can spend, I think that setup right there, like with you can get a decent Rode mic, a shotgun mic for like $80, $100. That little setup I just showed you, I think in total was probably minus if you had a mic on there, I'd say probably $500 or $600.
Okay.
You can make a movie with your phone. I mean, that's really, and it's really a lot. Cause if you think about that, you could turn around and buy, a half decent DSLR for that.
Yeah.
But lenses, see, that's including this anamorphic lens that I have. Lenses are the other thing, man. You can make, honestly, you can make a decent low budget film with a kit lens. As long as it's not prime and it does zoom, you can make a really decent film with the kit lens. So it's a hit or miss. And this is some of the stuff I've had to learn and pick up as I go, because when I started, man, this was it. This is all I had was just my phone, and thankfully, I've just had a lot of people, stand beside me and believe in what I'm doing. And I was able to raise a little money using GoFundMe, and I got some equipment, but, I just had family and friends and even complete strangers just donate equipment, donate money to me, because they believed in what I was doing. So you can't underestimate the power of community in filmmaking. That's going to be the most important thing you have, is your team and your community.
Mm-hmm. And, speaking of that, I mean, how do people know that you were so invested in this? When did you become, the filmmaker guy, maybe in your neighborhood or your school or anything like that? Is it something that really followed you, or you just kind of fell into it, or how did that work?
That's a great question, man. It started for me back in October last year. I kind of hit a place in my life where I just wasn't happy doing what I was doing. And, I still work a day job. But I realized, I'm not happy doing this. I'm blessed to have my job. I've got a great job. I've got a great group of people I work with, but it's not what I want to do the rest of my life. And I'm getting older. I'm nearing 40. And I thought, man, this is just I'm not happy doing this. And I knew one of the things I did want to do was start a podcast. I just never had an idea. So lately I've been in sort of this nostalgia phase. And I inadvertently ran across a clip of Monster Vision on YouTube, and I completely forgot about Monster Vision, completely forgotten about it. And so I was watching these clips of Joe Bob Briggs. I'm like, wow, man, this is so cool going back. Well, it turns out, John Bloom is his real name. Joe Bob Briggs is a character. John's on Cameo. And so I started sending him messages, and in the few things I said to him, I found myself wanting to find out more about who he is as a human being. And it dawned on me, that's my podcast. I have a heart for horror. I love horror films. And I thought, well, I can interview actors, authors, and directors that work in horror. And the twist of what I'm doing is I'm not focusing purely on their careers. I want to focus also on who they are as human beings. We're talking about your career, but I want people to know who you are. What's your story? And I look at it as master storytellers telling their stories. Now, inevitably, every episode I've done, man, we just start talking about film and stuff. I mean, that's just what happens. I mean, when you've got people that love film, that's what you do. You talk about film. So I started Dawn Journey Productions as the umbrella to do things under, because when I knew, if I'm going to email celebrities, I don't want to email them, Bryan@gmail.com, or, Jim@gmail.
Even though that's a lot of their emails, right?
Yeah. I wanted to be official, and being an IT guy, I knew how to set all that up. So I set up an actual, Dawn Journey Productions email, and I started the company. I'm like, all right, let's do this. So I just started reaching out to people. And that's one of the first keys, man, is you can't be afraid to reach out to people. And, one lesson I learned is there's a established appropriate way to do this. And by that, I mean, I first started just outright reaching out to people on Twitter, and I would get ignored. What I didn't realize is that most actors have agents, and they have agents to handle guest appearances, podcasts, speaking events, things like that. So the proper way to do it, so just to save you all a mistake, go through the agent. Get IMDb Pro. It's $150 a year, but it's worth it, because you can make your own IMDb profile, and it gives you all the content information for pretty much anybody you can think of. Their agents. You need to talk to their agents. There's a proper established way to do things. The etiquette is to go through an agent. Some people are pretty accessible. I did reach out to several celebrities, and they're like, oh yeah, sure. I'll come on the podcast. And, but you need to go through an agent. So just to save all the new people out there, a mistake that I made, go through an agent. Okay. So the first person I had on the show was Harrison Smith. And at this time, I was still I was in school for cybersecurity, actually. And I was trying to figure out, it just wasn't really, I wasn't digging it. I had changed degree paths. I'd gone over to a business degree, and I I didn't feel any motivation. I was in school to be in school. I didn't realize that until somebody pointed that out to me.
Right. Just going through the motions, right?
Exactly. I've got a degree. My lights are flickering. I hope I don't lose power.
Oh.
I've got a degree already, but I just wanted to further my education. So, I was sitting there exploring, like, well, what do I do, man? Do I go into marketing? Because I'm an artistic person, like, do I go into marketing? Do I go into web design? I didn't know what I wanted to do. Well, then I had this interview with Harrison Smith and it was awesome. Then I interviewed Hilton Ariel Ruiz and I thought it was awesome. And I think after interviewing Hilton, I realized between those two guys and talking to them, I realized filmmaking is what I want to do. That's what I want to do. And the linchpin of it all for me was, again, Joe Bob Briggs. I really hope I can meet him because I very badly want to look him in the eye and shake his hand and thank him for changing my life, because he did this little monologue called Keep Rolling. And in it, he talks about independent filmmaking, becoming a filmmaker. And he makes a really, really salient point in that it is the attitude I have adopted to filmmaking today. And in it, he says, basically, there is no such thing as an aspiring filmmaker. He said, forget that. You are a filmmaker. He said, if you have 10 minutes a day to work on your film, you work on your film for 10 minutes a day. You're not a mechanic. You're not a dentist. He named off a few jobs. It's like, you're a filmmaker, you're a director, you're a screenwriter. That's how you have to look at yourself. And it was so inspiring. I mean, it was literally life-changing. I tell people, like, watch this. This is going to change it. And I don't recall if I had started the screenplay yet for Blood Repentance, but I for sure did after that. And I started, and I had this challenge for my friends. So I just did it, man. You hear a lot of criticism today of social media. And here's what I'm going to say to that. Social media is what you make of it. It's a tool. And I have found Facebook. I love Facebook. It is the most effective networking tool I have found so far. I connected with my local film community, and that was the big change, man. I don't know. I just started connecting with people, and you start to meet people, and it just kind of took off from there. And people knew I was, working on a film, and they wanted to be a part of it, or I asked them to be a part of it. I had family and friends that were helping as well. And it just kind of went from there, man. But it's about the top thing is networking. Know how to talk to people. But I will say, be genuine. Yeah. People will know if you're disingenuous. Be yourself. Don't be afraid to ask for help, because there are so many people out there that are willing to help, and they want to help because they want to be in films, man. Like that's been the most amazing. If somebody said, what was the most surprising thing about filmmaking to you? It was how willing people are to help. There's so many people out there who want to make movies just as bad as you do, and they're willing to just jump in and not even charge you. It's amazing. The filmmaking community is just a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I found it interesting. You said that you just recently kind of became like, this is the filmmaker guy. This is the guy that's into screenplays and everything like that, because that happened after the podcast, really. And so I'm assuming the podcast, you only got a few episodes in. It's relatively new as well, right? It's like,
yeah, dude, the podcast has been an amazing tool. I've gotten to do a lot of things that some filmmakers don't get to do, at least early on. And I don't take that lightly, and I don't take that for granted. And I'm very thankful for those opportunities. I've gotten to sit at the feet, essentially, let's just say metaphorically, of these veteran filmmakers and soak in their life experiences and the lessons they have to teach. And it's been a privilege. I mean, like a month ago, I got to interview Scott. My favorite film of all time for 23 years, my favorite film has been the 1978 Dawn of the Dead. And a month ago, I got to interview Scott Reiniger, and this man is a hero to me. I got to tell one of my heroes in an interview how much that film meant to me and that it changed my life. And the story it's a unique story of how I got to see it. And that's a privilege, man. That's a privilege. And I wouldn't have gotten that privilege without the podcast. In pursuing filmmaking, I've actually gotten to, being a George Romero fan, I've actually gotten to touch that universe. I've gotten to intersect with that universe, man. I mean, 23 years ago, I would have never thought I would talk to Scott Reiniger, much less Jeannie Jeffries. You know, I learned about Gene Jeffries in a documentary. I'm like, oh, wow, that's cool. You know, and now, I mean, like, she's a Facebook friend. I talk to her fairly regularly. She's an incredible human being. She loves animals. She's super kind and nice, and she's talented and wonderful, wonderful person. I never in my life thought I would ever talk to her or Scott or anybody. Like I talked to Mike Ankus, who was, you know, one of the zombies that helped rip apart Tasso Stavrakis and Day of the Dead. And he's become a friend. He's actually a producer on my movie. Like I've met these amazing people that I never thought I would get to talk to. And a lot of it was because of the podcast. You know, it's like, hey, I want to talk to you. I want you to tell your story. And they're like, well, yeah, let's do it. And then you connect with them, you talk to him and you get along, and there's just kind of this mutual chemistry, and it's amazing. So I would tell people, like, if you want to be a filmmaker, start a podcast and use that as a tool to start connecting with people and learn. Use it as a learning tool, man. Use it as your film school. All the things that you want to ask, all the questions you have, how do I do this? How do I do that? Where do I go? Guess what? Somebody in your audience has those same questions. Right. And so when you ask the question by proxy, it's going to answer their question.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's an interesting take on it. Starting a podcast will get you all those questions answered. There are a lot of things. That's why my podcast is called the Ignorance Restraint Podcast, because there's a lot of things I don't know. You know, when I talk to somebody that's doing something that I'm not familiar with, it's cool, because at the end of the day, you know, I learned something. Maybe somebody listening learned something that, you know, could help them out and whatnot. So I'm all about that, man. Yeah. And when it comes to your film that you mentioned, A Blood Repentance, right? And that's is that out anytime soon?
I am hoping to have it in the can by November. Okay. That's my goal, and that's, you know, fully completed, ready to go. You know, the plans I have for it, I want to. It's going to be on the festival circuit. I'm going to get into as many festivals as I can. I'm going to do a theater premiere. I'm actually going to go all out with this too, man. I want to have like a red carpet event. I want to, I'm inviting a bunch of people, you know, and I'm hoping most of them come. These are people that I have a lot of respect for. And, you know, it's, there's one guy in particular, my friend, Scott Ward. He's an actor. And I said, Scott, you going to come to my premiere? He goes, you know, actually my brother's there. So I'll try to be there. So I'm really hoping Scott shows up. Like, I just have a lot of respect for that guy. I want to go all out with it, man. And I want to do, I actually kind of officially, I guess, announced the Indiegogo on the last podcast I did before yours. I'm going to start Indiegogo for this. And my ultimate goal with the Indiegogo is two things. I don't care about making any money from this film. If I make $0 from this, fine. I want two things to happen with that Indiegogo. I want to pay my people, because I cannot stress to this audience enough that you are nothing without your team. I don't care how good of a filmmaker or director I am or think I am, you know, whatever. I'm nothing without a team. I can't make a movie by myself. Steven Spielberg can't make a movie by yourself. You are your team. Your success is in 100% part due to the success of your team. I want to pay those people. They deserve it. And I want to put this out there. I want to put this film in as many film festivals as I can. And I want to have the theater, well, don't you love when you forget a word? Premiere. I want to have the theater premiere, you know. So I've actually said one of the things I'm going to do, you know, now this is becoming public. If we can hit $10,000, I'm going to let my team roll the camera, and they're going to shave my beard off.
Oh man.
Which, if you know me, that's a big deal. So I'm like, there's a part of me that's like, I wish I hadn't said that, but I'm sticking to it. You know, like if I can make 10 grand, I will gladly rock no beard for a while to pay my people, because they deserve it. They've been an amazing team, and they've sacrificed their time and their talents to help me fulfill a dream. And there's no amount of money in the world that can repay that, but I want to try, you know?
Yeah. You know, you keep talking about, you know, the team. It's funny because I've never worked on a film or anything like that, but I was watching, you know, the behind the scenes of the Godfather series, The Offer. Mm-hmm. You heard about that?
I've heard about it. I don't have Paramount Plus, man, but I almost want to get it just so I can watch The Offer, because it looks amazing.
Oh yeah, it's really good. But you know, watching that really kind of made me realize, like, damn, we really do need a strong team, even for such a, you know, well, there were a lot of issues with it, but I mean, for, you know, such a classic movie like that, you know, you really needed a strong team to get it done.
Yeah.
You know, and it's echoing everything that you're saying.
Well, and I'm actually understaffed. I've as I do this and I'm learning, I actually need to fill more roles. I just added a few more people to my team. And it really goes beyond a team, man. Like, you need people that are passionate about film, because if you have somebody on your set that's not passionate, they're not going to do a good job. Mm-hmm. And what you find in this experience is these people become your family. I would consider every person I'm working with right now a family member. And I feel a great debt to them and a great sense of gratitude, because without all of them, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you right now. You know, because like, if none of these people wanted to work with me and help me do this, I wouldn't have anything to talk to you about other than my podcast, you know? So it's like, I'm standing here right now on their shoulders. You know, every ounce of success I've had, I attribute to two things. I attribute it to God opening doors for me and my team. You know, my team is more important than I'll ever be.
What, I mean, we talked a little bit about, you know, what you want to do with blood repentance and whatnot, but in the overall scheme of things, like in the long run, what are some big goals? What's going to make, you know, your name pop out there and be successful, and your you know, your production company as well?
Yeah, man. So, you know, if I never make another film in my life, which would be a bummer, but if I never make another film, I'm grateful for the opportunity to have done this one. What I ultimately want to do, though, what my mission is, one of the prevailing, so anybody that enters into film, whether you decide to go straight into Hollywood or start out in independent film, one of the prevailing messages you hear is how difficult the industry is to get into. And I've taken issue with that. And there's something in me that refuses to let that continue to be the case. So what I ultimately want to do, the legacy I want to leave, even beyond making my own films, what I want Dawn Journey Productions to become, when somebody says, hey, you know what, I want to be a filmmaker. Right now, you have a lot of questions you have to ask, you know, like, okay, well, you know, where do I start? Where, you know, how I do this, how to do that, how do I get equipment? But the first thing I want people to say is, let me call Dawn Journey Productions. And the reason I say that is I want to be this bastion that makes filmmaking accessible to literally everyone. And not only filmmaking, quality filmmaking. I want to have studio space, cameras. I want people to call me, call my team, come in and talk to us. We're going to present our company's values to you and say, look, your project needs to conform to these things because we have values. If you're okay with that, we will make your movie. We'll make it happen. If it's a quality product, a quality project, and if it's not, we'll help you make it a quality project. We're going to make your movie. You're going to have studio space. You're going to have cameras. I'm going to assign you a veteran director mentor. I want to have those people on staff. People have been directing for a while. They're going to be available to you by phone. They're going to be available to you by email. They're going to be your assistant director on set. We're going to walk you through the entire process of making your movie, up through, like, we'll even try to get distribution for you. Like, I want everyone, because let me tell you something, man. It's when you spend months and months and months preparing to shoot a film, you feel a range of emotions that range from frustration to elation. Okay. That first day you're on set, I can't begin to describe to you how magical it is. I can't begin to describe to you how amazing it feels to be surrounded by actors and crew and to have a camera in front of you. And you're seeing these people bringing what you put on the page to life. That's magic. And I want everyone to experience that. And I want them to I mean, it's one thing to be out in the woods with a phone and your friends, but it's another when you actually have a boom mic guy and you have a legit camera with a monitor in front of you. And you've got, you know, actors that, I mean, like, it's just so amazing. And I want everybody to experience that. I want it to be a safe place. I want to be the change that needs to happen in this industry. I want to be a force for good. You know, my heart is to encourage people. It's to build people up and to see people succeed and grow. And I want to be that change in this industry. That's the legacy I want to leave.
That's really cool, man. It's admirable. You know, I think about that and I'm hearing about it. And, you know, I did a lot of work in after school programs. I'm like, maybe link up with an after school program that,
that's not a bad idea.
You know,
that's a really good idea.
Trying to
write that down.
Yeah, trying to get, you know, something off the ground. They don't have, you know, money for equipment, you know, most of the time. And they got a lot of eager kids, you know. I remember trying to start like a like a film club. I think we just kind of lost interest. The kids lost interest because there was nobody who had the know-how. If I wish I had the know-how, because at that point, I didn't have any staff members who knew how to make film. And I'm just like, well, you know what? Let's do it with us, and I'll do my best to be one lesson ahead of y'all. But even then, it's kind of like, yeah, thank you for trying, but you don't know what you're talking about, kind of thing, And I think the kids really kind of, if you don't know what you're talking about, is as nice a gesture it is, as much as they appreciate what you're doing for them, they'll just be like, nah, we want the authentic experience, So that's something maybe to look into. I think that would be a good fit for y'all.
That's a great idea, man. And I literally did. I keep a little notebook next to me when I do podcasting, and I did write that down. I'm going to look into it. I'll talk to my team about it. Yeah. And you really brought up a great point. Filmmaking is about family and community, but there's a learning curve there, and you have to learn somewhere. And that was the biggest challenge I had. Like when I first started, man, I was like, okay, I don't have the first clue about what I'm doing here. I played with a VHS camcorder a few times as a kid. I don't know what I'm doing, and I had the first person I had a person in mind I wanted to mentor me, and I was just too afraid to ask. And that's my fault. He might have said yes had I asked him, but I was afraid. But I asked the second person, and they were like, "Absolutely, man. Here's my number," and took me under their wing. They answered my questions. But I'll tell people a couple things. Most filmmakers out there will tell you don't bother with film school. I won't say that. I was in film school for 12 hours, actually. Yeah. I was bummed I couldn't go because I really wanted that formal training. But actually making a movie, I mean, I know there are things that film school could teach me that I may not know right now that might have made this process smoother. But I can tell you that you really getting out there and just making something is one of the best lessons, because it's even when you don't know what you're doing, you learn. You get to a point where you're like, okay, well, how do I do this? And you look it up, or you read a book, or you talk to somebody that's been in it. I learn new things weekly, and actually a book I'll suggest that I picked up, and I happen to have it here next to me. It's called the Bare Bones Camera Course for Film and Video. And it's general enough that it's not really like outdated. This was actually written by a guy named Tom Schroepel, Schroeppel. He actually was a combat photographer in the military, and he wrote this book. And this the third edition was 2015. I'm not sure if there's a newer edition, but he covers all of the basics: shot types, not crossing the line, the axis, what they call crossing the line, not going across the axis of action. He talks about, cut on action and cutaways, the importance of cutaways, and, having, when you're having like long dialogue, making sure you're, moving the camera every 30 seconds and, by like a 45-degree angle, or just literally going to like a different over the shoulder. He talks about lighting and sound. I mean, he goes through, all of it, and it'll help. I would say grab that book, and I would say grab a couple friends. If look for a free script writing program that they're out there. There's one called Highland 2 for Mac. That, and the nice thing about it is it actually formats for you. Trying to write in that script format's tough.
I think that's one thing that people that are brand new to writing probably have the most trouble with, is that format. They're like, well, why can't I just do it like in a Word document, right? But I mean, I get why now. Just looking at it, I mean,
but it's a pain. Like it's because I first started writing in Microsoft Word. It's a real pain trying to do all that. But when you have like Highland 2, Final Draft is the most popular one, but it's like $200. But these programs will actually do the formatting for you. Just like
I think there was one for the phone as well. It was like Celtex.
Yes. Yeah. I know what you're talking about. I can't remember the name of it, but yeah, there's one for the phone as well. There's actually a portable version of Final Draft. If you have an iPad and a keyboard, for like $10, you can get Final Draft for your iPad. So there are a lot of great tools out there, man. Here's the problem is, to make like a real quality film, you could be an absolute film genius and shoot something with your phone that's so compelling that it could, be of incredibly low quality, and people are like, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And you go somewhere. I'm not gonna say it doesn't happen, but for me, man, when I stop and I look back, I could tell you all the steps I took to get here. But when I look at everything as a whole, I still can't understand wrap my head around the fact that, this is taken off like it has. I mean, like, and I have people telling me like, I cannot wait for this movie. I'm thinking, wow, man, like, you're your own worst critic as an artist. And I'm thinking like, it's so strange to me. People actually want to see this. They're like actually excited about it. It's, but I'll tell you, man, I at the end of the day, I'm going to give credit to God and my team, because I'm where I'm at today because of them. I don't care how talented I am or think I am or whatever. Like, I'm nothing without those two things. So, surround, and I can go into some of the things I've learned that make an effective filmmaker. And I probably should, if you want me to, if we have the time. But I will tell you that, one of the things you need to make sure you do is you surround yourself with positive, loving people who love film as much as you do, and be a servant, be willing to help, be willing to build other people up and see other people succeed.
Right. Because even if it's your baby, if it's all yours, you're not out there being the boss, right? You're out there being a part of it all, right? You're out there being one of everybody, right? You're out there getting things done along with people on your crew.
Yeah, well, and man, it really is a course in leadership. I mean, like, as the director, I'll tell you, the real boss is your producers, but the director is the boss. But let me tell you something, man. Like, being the boss, that's such a we've all worked for a boss and nobody likes it. I think leadership is about humility and service at the end of the day. If I'm going to be an effective leader, if I'm going to be a good leader, I need to be willing to do the things that my team doesn't want to do, or I need to be willing to do the things that I would ask them to do. I need to lead. I need to be an example to them. If my people are not succeeding, excuse me, I'm so sorry. If my people are not succeeding, I'm failing as a leader. I'm failing as a director. My ultimate job is to make sure my team succeeds. And and of course you bring business into it, like, to make money. But at the end of the day, my job is service to my team and making sure that they're being the best they can be, and whatever it takes to bring that out of them. Right. So here are some important things that you need to, some important skills. And I think personality traits that you at least need to, if you don't naturally have them, cultivate them. Okay. Number one, you need to be adaptable. Okay. You need to be MacGyver. Because here's what's going to happen. And I was told this by multiple filmmakers, and it's true. And I'm going to share this, and I'll go ahead and caveat that you'll hear this advice and you'll know that it's going to happen, but you just have to experience it to fully grasp it. Things are going to go wrong. They will. They can range from little tiny things like, oops, I forgot batteries, to the first week I was supposed to film, I lost 2 actors. One of them was one of my leads. And it wasn't bad. It was ultimately a scheduling thing for one of them. But I had to replace 2 actors. So that put us behind. Right. So when you're in a situation like that, you have a couple of choices. You can say, okay, well, I could fall apart and panic and freak out and just say, this is not worth it. It's frustrating, and just throw it away. Or you could say, okay, well, all right, so this has happened. So what do I need to do? And you could stop and step back for a second and look. It's like, okay, well, I need to replace the actor. So let's start talking to people. Let's reach out. Your team is watching you, and they're looking to see how they should react. And if they see you panic and melt down, then they're going to lose faith in you. But if they see you remain level-headed and cool and just have like, okay, well, I just need a solution. It's all right. Well, let's do this. Let's do this instead. Or let's push it back a week. They're looking to you for how to react, man. And so it's important for morale and for your team that you remain calm, collected, and you come to them with solutions. Now, that doesn't mean don't be a robot. You're going to have emotions, so like, I encourage people, have somebody that you can go to, where you can get your negative emotions out. Don't let your team see your negative emotions. They know that you're probably frustrated and stuff, but don't let them see that, man. So for me, like, if I'm frustrated about something, I go to Scott and I'm like, Scott, I'm upset. Let me bounce this off of you. I'll get those negative emotions out. Dealt with it, done. Now let's talk about solutions. Then I go back to my team with solutions. That's important. You need to be adaptable. You need to be like water. Bruce Lee's talk about like being fluid like water. Like, you need to be like water, man. It's like, you need to be able to adapt and overcome. That's the number one most important skills of a filmmaker. Equally as important, though, a very close number 2, if not an equal number 1, is you need to be able to get along with people and collaborate with people. John Carpenter, I heard an interview with John Carpenter a while back. And one of the things he said about working with talent, He said, I become to my talent, my actors, whatever it is they need me to be. He said, if I have an actor that needs a father figure, I'm going to be a father to that person. He said, if I have an actor that needs me to be a jerk to them, I will be a jerk. I can be a jerk. He becomes to his actors whatever it is they need that will allow him to get the best performance out of them that he can get. Okay. Mm-hmm. You need to be willing to adapt to different personalities, adapt to different views, and you also need to be willing to collaborate. Because I'll tell you this. I was talking about this on the last podcast I was on today. I'm ashamed of this, but it's true. When I first wrote Blood Repentance, I was so guarded of that script. I did not want any name on it but mine. Mm. And I cannot tell you the disservice I would have done to myself had I maintained that attitude. The greatest thing to happen to this movie was for other people to come in and give and co-write with me. Mm. And I will tell anybody any day of the week, 24 hours a day, your best work is going to come from co-writing with people. Collaboration leads to a much better product. I am 100% collaboration writing now. I don't care how many names are on my script. You can put, you can still have your little, story by, whatever. But at the end of the day, man, the best work is going to come out of collaboration. Like, dude, the dialogue is the hardest part about writing a screenplay. It's hands down, dialogue is the hardest thing to write. I've gotten so many great dialogue suggestions from my co-writers. I've gotten so many, some of the awesome stuff that happens in the story came from some of the actors. Like, well, what if we did this? And it's like, wow, yes, perfect. Well, guess what? Now their name's on the script. Who cares, man? Because at the end of the day, you're making a great movie, right? It only helps you. So when you look at the script for Blood Repentance now, when you look at the title page, there's like 8 names on it, and I'm glad because I have a way better movie. My movie is going to be so much better because those 8 people are on it. Yeah. So you need to be open to collaboration, and even on set, sometimes people worry about, crossing the line with the director. Like, it's like, what if I think, something would be a better idea? I tell people, I'm like, just say, hey, I got an idea. You open to hear it? I'm like, I'm always going to say yes. Yeah. What you got? I've gotten some great scene changes from people. So one of the people in my movie is the original mail girl for Monster Vision, Honey Michelle Gregory's in my film. And she's a dear personal friend of mine. She's a close friend of mine. And she's an amazing human being. She's amazing to work with, incredibly talented person. And that night of shooting, one of my characters, a guy named Corey, or the actor, I'm sorry, one of my actors is a guy named Corey. He, we were doing a scene. He said, hey man, what if I stopped and did this? And I was like, yeah, let's try it, and it looked great. It was a great suggestion, and it's something simple. Like, so don't be afraid to collaborate. Don't be afraid to not have 100% like this was all me, because at the end of the day, man, when you let other people bring in their ideas, you're going to get a better product out of it. And that leads into a bigger lesson. There's a movement happening, at least in the Knoxville film community, which I'm really excited to be a part of. There's a guy locally named Tony Cottle, and there's an actor named Silk Coatsart. And they're both fantastic people, and their heart for this community and for this industry is they want it to be accessible to everybody. And their message is, and this is the message I have as well, we're on the same team and we're all trying to do the same thing. Instead of being a competition with each other, let's work together and make each other's projects happen. Mm-hmm. And so that's what they're doing. And so Tony throws these mixers occasionally, and it's a bunch of industry people getting together, actors, directors, producers, just a lot of people. And it's fantastic. And you meet a lot of great people, and don't be afraid to collaborate, and don't be afraid to let other people have their name on your stuff, because at the end of the day, you're just going to get something better out of it.
Love it, man. It's a different philosophy than I've ever heard, but I mean,
it's true,
yeah, I can see how that's true, putting 2 minds together instead of one there. Now, I usually like to run the podcast around this length just because, this is the most digestible. I'd love to have you back on at any point, maybe after the movie's released, but we're definitely rooting for you at this point, man. I really, I like your philosophy on things here. I like your leadership ideas there. And so, I really, really hope you do well.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
But really quickly, before we get out of here, where can people find you?
Yeah, man. So the best place to get me is Facebook. My full name is Bryan Parkerson. If you do reach out to me, I do ask. I get a lot of scam messages from people. If you send me a message and we're not friends on Facebook, in your initial message, please just give me the whole thing. Like, you know, hey, I heard you on a podcast, or I have a question about filmmaking. If you just say, hello, how are you? That's how most scam messages start. So please, you know, just let me know, like, hey, you know, I heard you, you know, let me know what it is you're needing. Don't be afraid to reach out to me. I'm happy to answer any questions I possibly can, because I want to help people make movies. So Facebook, number one place to get me, Bryan Parkerson. There's also a Dawn Journey Productions Facebook page. I'm on Twitter intermittently, but I'm there. It's at BP4Christ. You know, look in all my social media, look for a guy with a giant beard. That's me. Dawn Journey Productions also has a Twitter page. It's at Dawn Journey Prod. There's a Dawn Journey Instagram. My podcast is called That Other Interview Show. I'm on every major podcast thing out there. There may be a couple I'm not on, but you know, Apple, Spotify, Google, you can find me. I also have a page for the Blood Repentance Film. It's the official Blood Repentance Film Group, I believe is what it's called. So yeah, don't be afraid to reach out to me. I'm here to help. And I want people to experience this magic, because filmmaking is just such an amazing thing. And thank you so much for having me on your show, man. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Again, thank you again. But you know, sorry for the hiatus again, everybody. But we'll be back regularly with weekly episodes again. So for everybody listening at home, I appreciate it. Thank you. Fuck you and good night.
Good night, everybody.
Subscribe to the Ignorance is Strength podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. Like, follow, and share on Facebook and Instagram at Ignorance is Strength Podcast, and on Twitter at The Ignorance Pod.